Good morning, you guys. Welcome to another moving prep video. Today we're doing my bookcase. It is definitely a mess. It's pretty disorganized and way too full. If you're new here, hi, my name is Mary, welcome. I am moving to Scotland in a couple of months and I'm downsizing my entire life. So I've already cleaned out my closets, I've cleaned out my makeup collection, and there's so much more left in my apartment and in my life that I have to clean out. So I'm doing bookcases. I still have to do perfume, kitchen appliances, and pots and pans and things. My decor collection will probably need to clean out. Just everything in my life. But today we're doing the bookcase. This is all part of my moving preparations. I have a few videos on my channel already of me doing this type of thing. As you can see, the bookcase, although I love this bookcase because it's structural and it's different, it's obviously seen better days. Here's what we're working with. We've got board games and card games up top, Christmas decorations from literally 2 years ago that I haven't taken down, and then books just stacked everywhere along with various other things like cards and a painting project and playing cards and my book embosser and little painted mushrooms I made, my candle tray, a bust, whiskey, a poster. Like there's just so many things just shoved everywhere. Magazines, old journals, just it's a mess. Golf balls. Because we obviously live in an apartment and there's limited storage, there's also limited surface space, and so the bookcase has become a default surface area for random things to get placed. And it shows, and it's a mess. Every time I post this on Instagram, I get a bunch of DMs of people saying, this gives me anxiety because it's so disorganized, so please sort your shit out. And today, we're sorting my shit out. So that's what I'm doing this morning. I've made myself an iced chai. I got the iced chai concentrate from Trader Joe's, so you do 1 part of the chai concentrate to 2 parts milk of choice. I did the Elmhurst oat milk, and they added nutmeg on top because I like nutmeg. It's pretty good for an at-home, ready-to-make, really easy chai. I think it's quite nice. So the POA right now is I'm gonna take everything that's not a book off the shelves because they all need to find other spots to go. Or maybe they'll go back on the bookshelves, but just in a more organized fashion. And I'm gonna go through every single book that I have and keep or toss. Keep or toss. And when I say toss, I mean donate. I asked you guys on my Instagram story where I should donate the books. I was like, should I put them somewhere public where you guys could go grab them? Should I put them in, like, should I donate to a library? You guys had the great compromise, like a great middle ground idea of donating them to little free libraries. And I don't know if every city has them, but my area does. Little free libraries. I'll try to find a picture to put on the screen. They look kind of like birdhouses, but they're full of books. And you can leave books and take books, and they're like little libraries for the community. You could go and swap a book out, you can donate to them, and I love them. There's so many around here, and I thought that was the perfect idea. So when I say I'm tossing books, they're all getting donated. My book collection is a little bit weird right now because I've moved so many times in the last 8 years, and every time I move, I downsize my book collection because they're so heavy and they're so difficult to move. They're very bulky and they're not fun to carry. So every time I move, I downsize my book collection, and it hurts every time because I'm a book lover and I wanna have a really big, beautiful library someday full of my favorite books and maybe like classic editions of my favorite books, unique bindings, rare printed editions. I envision that for myself. I want to have the most gorgeous library with a roaring fireplace in one corner and a very overstuffed leather chair that smells like tobacco and vanilla in another corner. Like, that's a life I want for myself. But because I've only ever lived in apartments as an adult, it's not my reality yet. Stick around, I'm gonna make it happen. And so along the way, I've had to get rid of loads of books that I would love to keep in my forever collection, but just can't logistically. So when you see my book collection, it's a little bit odd. There are some things that I've kept with me no matter what, like some favorite books of mine I'll never get rid of. There's also a lot of books I've lent out to friends at the moment. They are on their way back to me right now. But the books I have now are mainly the core books that I'll never get rid of, and then, you know, just books that I've bought or have read in the last year. Let's do it. I apologize if any of these angles are weird. The couch is right there, which limits the places I can put my tripod. But I think to start, I'm just gonna take everything down. My husband and I and our friends, we do love a board game. Or a card game. Codenames, there's a multiplayer edition, and then this duet one, a little wordy. Lord of the Rings tarot cards, they're gorgeous. This is such a fun game. It's really easy, everyone can play it, and it's always a good time. It's called Trekking. This is the National Parks edition, but I think there's also a plain one. The board game is the US, and you like travel along these routes and collect national parks, and you have to like buy them. It's kind of like a very simplified, shorter version of Monopoly because you're buying up properties. Sort of. I guess it's not really like Monopoly, is it? It's fun. A 9:30 Club backstage pass and a personally burned CD from when some childhood friends of mine were playing. This is a mug that Matt bought at the Dallas Farmers Market when he was living there. I think I vlogged the Dallas Farmers Market. It's a drinking mug made out of a Longhorn. He saw it, he had to have it. Who am I to judge? I've made many an impulse purchase in my day. These are literally Christmas decorations from Christmas 2022. 3 different sets of playing cards. We probably have more as well. Matt and I love to play rummy, especially when we travel. If we have a long plane, a layover, or a train ride or something. Rummy's our favorite game. So when we were coming back from Scotland in August and we had that really awful flight cancellation situation. Well, it wasn't our awful situation because it wasn't about us, but I think there was some kind of issue with British Airways and like 700 flights ended up getting delayed and ours ended up getting canceled. Anyway, we were in the airport for like 9 hours and we had a 52 game rummy tournament between ourselves. Winner was whoever got the 26 out of 52 first, or was it 20? I guess it was 27 out of 52. Matt won. This is the ring box that we used on our wedding day. We just didn't know what to do with it. It's just from Etsy. It's the kind of thing you don't think you should get rid of. We put both of our rings in there. Like, you don't want to get rid of it, but also we're literally never going to use this again. So what do you do with it? You stick it on the bookcase. These are cigar labels that we had for our wedding, so we just had our own labels printed. You can just get these done on Etsy. We just had labels printed with our names on them, and it made the cigars we had just like a little bit more personalized and special. And again, you don't want to get rid of them, but like, what are you supposed to do with it? Many sentimental bottles of whiskey. One of these is the bottle that he was drinking on our wedding day. I don't remember which one. Another one is just the bottle that he's drinking right now because we don't have a bar cart. I don't even know where to start. Also, this tag is bothering me. Does anybody else have a little sensory aversion to tags and clothing? This feels overwhelming. Okay, I'm getting anxious. Could also be the caffeine from my chai. Let's just do it. Number 1, on top. The Agony and the Ecstasy, Irving Stone, Christmas gift from my little sister this year. It is the passionate biographical novel of Michelangelo. His time, the turbulent Renaissance, the years of poisoning princes, warring popes, the all-powerful de Medici family. I love historical drama, and you don't even need historical fiction for that. Real history is dramatic enough. Did anybody else go through a Medici family hyperfixation? If so, you'd love this. What are you? Donna Tartt, The Secret History. Not bad at all. I feel like I have personally read too many dark academia style novels that all follow pretty much the same plot. It's always pretentious private school kids who are too smart for their own good getting into trouble because they're damaged and they have like problematic families, and the aesthetics are incredible, but they're so privileged. And which is not to say I don't like it. Like, I keep buying them and I keep reading them. I think I will keep this one though. I have another one that I'll get rid of, but I should keep one of those types of novels, so I'll keep this one. What is this? The Secret Service of Tea and Treason. This book was so funny. India Holton. I usually try to take these Barnes & Noble stickers off, but this book made me literally laugh out loud. The sense of humor in it was so funny to me. So the main character is an agent in this secret British government organization, and she is, it's been a while since I've read this, so I'm sorry if I get any details wrong. I believe her cover is a lady's maid, and the operatives in this organization have these unobtrusive covers, like maids, butlers, chauffeurs, things like that, because those are the positions that allow them to get the most tea and like uncover the most intelligence. And then there's a guy, another operative, and they are rivals and they're on the same undercover assignment, but it's also a world with magic in it. And they're like enemies, but they're super attracted to each other. But it's not like steamy. It's so funny. The sense of humor in this book, I need to read this again. This is one of Matt's books, Brandon Sanderson, Words of Radiance. I've spoken about Brandon Sanderson on this channel so many times because Matt adores Brandon Sanderson, and it's so funny because every time I post about Matt liking Brandon Sanderson on YouTube, or I mention on the podcast or Instagram, whatever, so many women DM or message to say like, oh my God, my husband, my boyfriend, my dad, my brother is so obsessed with Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson has a male cult following, and I've only read one of his books, so I can't really be the judge, and I know women like him too. I'm not saying it's only men, but it's just funny because when I meet a man who likes to read, chances are he loves Brandon Sanderson. He writes fantasy novels. He's incredibly prolific. He has, I don't even know how many books he has, at least 30, zillions of series, very thick, very detailed, crazy world building. Like, the guy must do nothing but write all day, every day, because his output is insane. What's next? Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I can't get rid of this because I haven't finished the series yet, because the third book hasn't come out yet, I don't think. This one is about a researcher, also British. I think it's like early 1900s. It's hard to keep details on every single book you've ever read in your head at one time. She is a researcher into the world of fairies, but in a very like anthropological way. In this world that exists in this book, like, fairies and their worlds are real, and so professors at universities like conduct anthropological research on them, and they also like conduct linguistic studies and things. She is pretty bland and dry and boring, but she's an expert in her field, and she goes to this remote town in some far northern country and gets into situations. I really liked this one too. The second book is in here somewhere. I can't find it. I know I own it. The Economist, one of my favorite magazines to read on planes. Casey Davis's How to Keep House While Drowning. This is a book written by, I believe she has ADHD. Casey Davis is a licensed therapist. I think she has ADHD. She's neurodivergent in some way, and she wrote this book on like practical ways to try to keep your house and home clean and organized and semi-functional when you really struggle with like task management or executive dysfunction, things like that. I liked this book. I did get some really helpful pieces of advice out of it. I do not have ADHD. I have bipolar disorder and OCD, but I'm gonna keep that. This is not a good start, you guys. I need to be getting rid of more things. Ooh, okay, I love a conversation card game. This is one of my favorites. Conversation card games are my favorite things. Matt and I love to take them on date nights. Basically, you just pull out a card. It has a list of conversation starters, and then you just chat about them. We have a bunch of different themed conversation card games. I would love to make my own someday. Love. Yule, a celebration of light and warmth. If you are into anything like Wheel of the Year, the solstices, the equinoxes, living in harmony with the seasons. Almost like a craft book and guidebook in one, but also has a lot of like the history of different Yuletide practices and things. This is Your Brain on Birth Control, the surprising science of women, hormones, and the law of unintended consequences. Probably gonna get rid of this. I read it, it was good. I'm not gonna get off birth control at the moment. I think I might, actually, I was thinking this the other day, I might get off of birth control in the next year or two, which is a scary thought because I've been on birth control since I was 18, but I do kind of feel like I would like to understand what my body is like without it. I didn't love every part of this book because I don't like scare tactics, and it's not a scare tactic book, and it has a lot of useful information in it. It's just, I really feel like, although I know birth control isn't a perfect solution, and it's often overprescribed, and it's used as a band-aid to give to women when they have other underlying issues going on that doctors don't care to test or find out about or diagnose. So birth control is not perfect by any means, but also birth control is useful, and I don't want there to be a negative stigma around it, and I feel like at times there is, and I don't know, like, I have complicated feelings surrounding birth control. I'm on it. I've been on it for 8 years. I like it. I do think I want to get off of it. I don't think every woman should be on it, but I don't know. I'm gonna get rid of this one. Look at that big smile. Brief intermission because my dog just got back from a walk. The Twyford Code by Janice Hallett. I have another Janice Hallett book. Where is it? Here it is. The Appeal. She is such an interesting author because I don't know if all she writes is epistolary novels, but these two are both epistolary novels, and they both have really big twists at the ends. They're sort of mysteries, and just when you think you're figuring it out, or maybe other people are figuring it out and I'm just dumb, but there's a big twist at the end of both of these, and they're both epistolary novels. This one, The Appeal, is a murder mystery, and I don't know if the ending actually is creepy, but I finished the book when I was pretty high, and I got really creeped out by it, but I actually don't know if it's creepy or if I was just like in a headspace. Either way, I'm not gonna read this one again because of that, but I will keep the Twyford Code. I really like a good mystery novel, and a reason why I like epistolary novels, which are novels written in the form of journal entries, letters, emails, texts, like that form of communication. And a reason I like them is because it takes you longer to figure out what's going on because you're presented with very limited perspectives and points of view. And so you have to unravel the actual narrative that's happening. Most of the time, the narrator in these books is unreliable, in these types of books is unreliable. And so you have to actually try to figure out what's going on between the lines because you're only getting the perspective of whoever is writing the letter or email or whatever. And yeah, they have twist endings. So I actually really like these. But I'm not going to reread The Appeal because that would freak me out. Magnus Magnusson, Scotland, The Story of a Nation. Great book on the history of Scotland and clan wars, how Scotland came to be, history of battles and wars and fights for independence with England. And yeah, Scotland's history is absolutely fascinating. We actually got this from the gift shop at Culloden Battlefield. The Late Mrs. Willoughby. So this, I feel like I have another one. Do I not have another one in this series? I thought I did. Maybe that was a library book. So Claudia Gray writes these novels that are set within the world of Jane Austen novels, and they have characters from Jane Austen novels, but they're spin-offs. She writes spin-offs. So for example, this book mentions Elizabeth and Darcy, also Marianne and Willoughby from Sense and Sensibility. That's the one, right? No, yeah. Marianne and Willoughby are from Sense and Sensibility. And it's fun if you just love Jane Austen. Obviously, I do. I have her complete works. They are spin-offs. They're not super serious. They're not, like, this is also a murder mystery. I'll keep it. If it has anything to do with Jane Austen, I'm gonna keep it. But yeah, she writes spin-off books. They're cute. I don't think that series is finished yet. I have had, it's dusty. I have had this box set since I was like 14 or 15 years old. It's Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. This is the first Lord of the Rings books I ever bought. They're massively sentimental. I am gonna keep them, but Lord of the Rings and a couple other series I have, like Chronicles of Narnia, the Jane Austen collection, different books like that that have a lot of nostalgic and personal, but also kind of historical significance. Those are the types of books that I want to collect. I wanna have multiple editions. I wanna have ones with cool covers. I want to have rare editions. I want to have every edition, and that's the type of thing where when I have a home on my own one day, or at least somewhere that we're truly settling and I can really max out my personal library, that's the type of book I want to get. In the meantime, I'm obviously going to keep these. I'll always keep them because they were my first Lord of the Rings books. I want to go to all the antique bookstores in Edinburgh. There's so many cool ones, and find antique versions of these books and cherish and love them forever. Wintering by Catherine May. I've recommended this to you guys many times. It's about one, enjoying winter, but also getting through the winters of your life, not seasonally, but when you're going through really hard times, like going through a personal winter, a dark time. It's about getting through that, and also getting through winter in general. It's a fantastic book. If you struggle with depression, seasonal depression, I would really recommend it. It's amazing. And I have another Catherine May book, and it's also really good. Nonfiction, of course, but just enormously helpful, I think. That is a book that changed my life. Spare. I never actually read this. Probably not gonna read it at this point. I bought it when it came out just because I feel like this is a safe space for Meghan Markle. If Meghan Markle ever stumbles across this channel, this is a safe space for you. You did not deserve that. So I bought this when it came out to show support, and then I never read it. The Art of Corrie. Corrie is kind of like the Scottish version of Hygge. And I'm apologizing if I'm mispronouncing either of these things. Google says Hygge, but I've also had a couple followers of mine who are Danish tell me that that's not 1000% correct. Anyway, this Corrie is kind of like the Scottish version of that. And you guys know how much I love Hygge. And this one is really cute too. This was a recommendation from one of you guys. It's such a cute book. Paulini, To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. Are there any Christopher Paolini girls in the chat right now? Any Aragon girls? This is a sci-fi novel that Christopher Paolini, who wrote the Aragon series, he wrote this book, and it's super different. I mean, it's a sci-fi, like, fantasy novel, and I loved it. I felt so emotional when I was reading it because the Aragon books were everything to me growing up. That's another book series that I want to buy once I have like a real library of my own, and to just read this man's writing again and to recognize like his writing style and the way that he builds a narrative. I'm like, why am I gonna cry? Why am I gonna cry? This author was everything to me as a kid, and I'm just so happy that he's putting out books again. I loved this one. It also has Angela in it. She makes a cameo. Always in December. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of this. This is just a cute little Christmas rom-com novel. Actually, I wouldn't call it a com. It's actually a rom-sad. I don't like the way it ends. It's sad. But it's Christmassy, you know. It's like a Hallmark movie Christmas book type of vibe. Gonna donate. Sirens and Muses, love this. Antonia Angris, definitely read. This is about young artists in New York City 2011, America is in a deep recession, but at the elite Rince College of Art, students paint and sculpt in a rarefied bubble. There's like some political commentary, there's class consciousness commentary. I'm like it's been a year and a half since I read this, so I'm trying to remember. Young people finding their place in the world, the aesthetic of the tortured artist, which I love. Roommates with unspoken attraction, homoerotic moments. It's a good book, I love this book. I think I gave that book 5 stars. Emily Ratajkowski's My Body, a donate. It's not bad, I'm just not gonna read it again. The Dictionary of Lost Words, probably also gonna donate. She's a child growing up at Oxford. Her father is a lexicographer. She becomes a lexicographer. And as she grows up, she realizes that words that are significant to women and women's history and women's slang and things aren't being documented and are not being put in the Oxford English Dictionary, and she sets out to change that. Actually, now that I'm describing this, I remember how much I like it, and I'm gonna keep this too. This is not going well. I'm keeping way too many books. I like books. I haven't read the new one. I feel like I can't read the new one until I reread these because I don't remember what the fuck is going on in these books. Honestly, I do not remember. I read somewhere that in the next Crescent City book, there's a crossover into the ACOTAR series and some of the characters are the same, and I don't like that. I think I'll keep these two because they're fun fantasy novels. I love a thick book, but I don't know if I even want to read the next one if there's a crossover. I hate when that happens. I don't like that. More Vogue magazines, donate. There was a time when I thought I would just collect Vogue magazines and like stack them and use them as decor or something, but I don't think I'm gonna, that's not important enough to ship these across the Atlantic Ocean, so I'm gonna, iconic. More of Matt's books, Black Box Thinking, which I feel like every man in his 20s has, and then John Gwynn's Bloodsworn series. This is books 1 and 2. Wow guys, we did 1 shelf. And how long did that take? Let's just keep it going. I'm breathing dust. This video is gonna be 15 hours long at this point. Oh my gosh, this is a book. I'm breathing in dust. This is a book embosser. Actually, I'll just emboss a book with you. So this is Wintering. Basically, what you can do with this, I got it off Etsy, I'll link it in the description box. On the title page, you can stamp it and then it says the Library of Mary Skinner, and I'll do that and I'll show you. So now it says Ex Libris Mary Skinner from the Library of Mary Skinner, and you can stamp all of your books. I love it. It would be such a good Christmas gift or birthday gift for the book lover in your life. It's small enough to be a stocking stuffer. I don't think it was that expensive, I think. I'll put it in the description box. This is another vintage book gift from my little sister. It's The Scarlet Letter, which was a childhood favorite. And it's just Arlington edition, and she saw it, and I currently live in Arlington, and she just thought I needed to have it. Neither of us know what Arlington edition means. Little note from my sister. I haven't read this edition because it is quite old, but yeah, Scarlet Letter, Arlington edition. Don't know what it means, but such a cool gift. Richard Osman, the Thursday Murder Club series. Does anybody else hate when you start reading a book series and the first couple have come out a while ago, so you can get the paperbacks, but then to get the new releases, you have to get the hardcover, and then your series collection is different sizes and different mediums, because I hate that. This is the Richard Osman Thursday Murder Club series, which you guys have heard me talk about a million times. I love these books. They are delightful. The sense of humor is incredible. It's about you've probably heard me say this so many times. It's about a group of retirees at a luxury assisted living community in England, and they are a delightful, assorted, eccentric, eclectic bunch of people. And there's an ex-nurse, an ex-political activist, a psychiatrist, an ex-secret government agent, and they solve murder mysteries together, and they are so funny. I love them, but they're not just funny. Like there's enough depth to satisfy you, but they're not so deep that they stop being funny. They are heartwarming. I cried. There's a side character who ends up passing away due to Alzheimer's, and one of my grandfathers passed away due to Alzheimer's a couple years ago, and throughout the book series, the character's cognitive abilities decline, and the people who love him wrestle with that, and that was very emotional for me, but the books are also funny, so I think they're great. I really love this book series. It's one of my favorite modern book series. They're just delightful. They just feel delightful. I just feel pleasant and happy when I read them. Written by herself, another gift from my sister. Wait, is it? Or was this from school? No, this is from my sister. Women's Memoirs from Britain, Africa, Asia, and the United States. It's an anthology of women's works. Love, love, love. What are you? The Rhythm of War, Brandon Sanderson, another one of Matt's novels. Eight Cousins, Louisa May Alcott. This was one of my favorite books growing up. This author wrote the Little Women series, another series that I'm gonna fill my future library with. Little Women, Little Men. This is Eight Cousins, which was actually my favorite one of the bunch. And I don't even know how many times I read this book growing up. This is the version I had growing up. I stole it from my mother's library. The book binding is shot. If you're a Little Women girly, put that in the comments because I love, love, love. And on the subject of Little Women, I've watched all of the movie adaptations and Greta Gerwig's is the best. I saw it 3 times in theaters. I took my mom to it. And even though I knew exactly what was gonna happen at the end, like I've read the book a million times, even though I knew exactly what was gonna happen, I still cried every time she died. I still cried like a baby. Saoirse Ronan was fantastic. Florence Pugh is everything in that movie. I've always been an Amy girl. Everyone's a Jo girl. I've always been an Amy supporter. I think she gets done so dirty in the book and so much of her behavior is misunderstood, I feel. It's awful that she burned Jo's book. I get that. One of the reasons I love that movie is because I feel like it made more people sympathetic to Amy's character because Florence Pugh and Greta Gerwig's direction was just so good. I love Louisa May Alcott. I love her so much. I'm gonna buy every single book that she wrote and put them in my future library. Then we have Penguin Classic editions of Jane Austen's 6 novels. I have the Penguin Classics because I took a Jane Austen literature class in college. I was an English major. I got to a point in my senior year where I'd taken all the requirements and I'd taken, I just taken every class that I had to, and I got to have a little bit of fun with classes I took in my final year, and so I just took like a Jane Austen literature class. Love, no notes. I would say my favorites, Pride and Prejudice, obviously, but I also really like Sense and Sensibility. That's my second favorite. But I also have, you guys maybe have not read this one, but Lady Susan, the Watsons, and Sanditon. These are 3 short stories by Jane Austen, and they're good. They're not my favorites, but you know. And then I also like Mansfield Park a lot. So yeah, I have all of these. Again, I'm gonna buy so many cool vintage editions of these. I could speak for 10 straight hours on how important Jane Austen was during her time and how significant what she did for women authors was, like what it still is. What her books mean, the social issues at the time that they tackled, and like, favorite topic. A couple more Penguin Classics, Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre, Catherine Mansfield's The Garden Party and Other Stories. Catherine Mansfield is so cool. This is a postmodern book, actually. Or sorry, she's a postmodern author. Wilkie Collins' The Woman in White. If you guys haven't read this, you should. The Woman in White is the first and most influential of the Victorian genre that combined gothic horror with psychological realism. The absolute first book of its kind. I need to reread this. It's been a few years. I have annotations in this one. It's another one I read for the first time in college. I have an annotation that just says, hair and eyes equals Victorian sexuality. She's bored, curious, likes sex, enjoys a drink and card game. It could be anything really. I don't remember what that's in reference to. But yes, this was the first book of its kind, and yeah, love these. I actually don't like Jane Eyre. Because why the fuck are we romanticizing Rochester? Why are we even putting this in the same category as books like Pride and Prejudice? Thomas Hardy, the collected poems of Thomas Hardy. I love Thomas Hardy, one of my favorite poets. I have Jeanette Winterson's Sexing the Cherry. Real good postmodern feminist work. This'll get you thinking. History of the World in 10.5 Chapters, one of my favorite books of all time by Julian Barnes. I don't even have the words to describe this other than I read this for the first time when I was 20 and it changed my entire life. Funny, harrowing, satirical, consolatory, absurd. What gives pleasure are the author's ventriloquism, skillful narrative pacing, waspy intelligence, and the tight lacing of the book's motifs and ironies. It is a hilariously revisionist account of Noah's Ark narrated by a passenger who doesn't believe in the book of Genesis. It's a sneak preview of heaven. But there's 10.5 different chapters in the book, and they all have different stories, but they tie together. The half chapter is about love, and when I read it for the first time, when I was 20, I read it over and over and over and over again, and it just, I don't know if it would have the same impact on me now as a 25-year-old, but I just remember when it impacted me so much. I was much younger. I remember the first time, it was late at night and I was really tired, and I read the half chapter, which is about love, and I just cried like a baby. Let me tell you something about her. It's that middle stretch of the night when the curtains leak no light. The only street noise is the grizzle of a returning Romeo, and the birds haven't begun their routine yet cheering business. She's lying on her side, turned away from me. I can't see her in the dark, but from the hushed swell of her breathing, I could draw you the map of her body. When she's happy, she can sleep for hours in the same position. I've watched over her in all those sewery parts of the night and can testify that she doesn't move. It could be just down to good digestion and calm dreams, of course, but I take it as a sign of happiness. She falls asleep like someone yielding to the gentle tug of a warm tide and floats with confidence until morning. I fall asleep more grudgingly, thrashing at the waves, either reluctant to let a good day depart or still bitching about a bad one. Different currents run through our spells of unconsciousness. Poets seem to write more easily about love than prose writers. For a start, they own that flexible I. When I say I, you will want to know within a paragraph or two whether I mean Julian Barnes or someone invented. But a poet can shimmy between the two, getting credit for both deep feeling and objectivity. And they write this stuff called love poetry, and it's collected into books called The Great Lovers Valentine World Anthology of Love Poetry, or whatever. The Canadian writer Mavis Gallant put it like this: the mystery of what a couple is exactly is almost the only true mystery left to us, and when we have come to the end of it, there will be no need for literature or for love for that matter. You have to read the entire chapter in order to get it, but I feel like the cool thing about reading is you read a passage like that and then it just transports you exactly back to the person you were and the things you were going through the first time you read it. And when I read that book for the first time, I was in such a shit place. I feel like with book recommendations, they're so personal, and what really resonates with me might not resonate with you and vice versa. And so I've had people DM me before and be like, I read that book and it just like didn't hit the way you said it was gonna hit. And I get that. Like, I don't think every book is for everyone, but that book changed my life. The Return to the Native, Thomas Hardy. Love, Written on the Body, also by Jeanette Winterson, postmodern feminist I just talked about. Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. This was a book that was banned multiple times in England from being published because it's so dirty. It's about a lady who falls in love with her gardener. Is it a gardener? Gamekeeper. And the gamekeeper teaches her about the world, teaches her about her own privilege, and teaches her about pleasure. This book is the 1928 edition. The most controversial of D.H. Lawrence's books, like I said, banned all the time. It's sexy. I read this in college. I'm keeping all of those. And then we have The Tempest, which is my favorite Shakespearean play, another book I need more editions of. The Tempest is by far my favorite of his works. It's so funny, like it's actually hilarious. Okay, the top 2 shelves are done. This video is gonna be so fucking long because why am I narrating every single book on these shelves? All right, let's come down a little bit. I hope somebody watches this video to the end because this is gonna take forever. The Fellowship of the Knits, the unofficial Lord of the Rings knitting book. Need I say more? Haven't actually made anything in this book yet because I'm a beginner knitter. Wish it was a crochet book, but this was actually a gift. The Catch, Alison Fairbrother, sad. I will toss this one. It's about a young working professional in DC actually, and her father dies, and then she learns that her father isn't who she thought he was, and it's sad. Why Men Love Bitches. I got this book because I saw it on social media so much, but I didn't read that much of it. I think I needed this book 6 years ago, but I don't necessarily need it now, so I'm gonna. Astrology 101, a crash course. This is a little bit basic for me now. Lost that. Leanne Moriarty, 9 Perfect Strangers. This actually became a Hulu series. You guys have probably seen it. Talk about Cersei. This was like a huge book on Book Talk in 2021. It's good though, I'll keep it. Red, White, and Royal Blue, another huge Book Talk book. I liked it. I thought the movie on, was it Netflix, the movie? Or Amazon Prime, the movie came out on. I thought it was cute. I thought the acting was kind of bad, but I thought the movie was cute. It's about the son of the President of the United States and then a prince, Henry, in England, and they fall in love. They're enemies to lovers. Louisa May Alcott's Little Women. This is the book that I had growing up as well. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching this, I did take all of these. The Mind-Gut Connection. Emrin Meyer, I loved this book. How the hidden conversation with our bodies impacts our mood, choices, and overall health. As someone who's super mentally ill, it's always fascinating to learn more about how your microbiome has so much to do with your physical but also mental health. And obviously, like being bipolar and OCD, changing my diet is not gonna fix my problems, but I believe that making different lifestyle choices can help alleviate some of my symptoms. And so it's about how your microbiome can affect your brain and cognitive function, but also your moods and things. It's a good one. Oh, Caledonia. It's been a long time. What was this even about? This must not have been that memorable to me. It's about Body of 16-year-old Janet discovered in her Scottish Highlands home. It's not a whodunit, but an account of our ill-fated young heroine's life. Did I even finish this? What's this? Oh, another book by Catherine May, The Electricity of Every Living Thing. She's the one who wrote Wintering. My Hugo Home, How to Make Your Home Your Happy Place. I have a lot of Hugo books. I love them. Modern Crochet, just it has a bunch of patterns in it, really good. Complete Guide to Sleep Care, Practices for Better Sleep. You guys know I struggle with insomnia. Love this. The Maid by Nita Prose. It's a mystery and the main character is a maid in a New York City hotel. Probably toss. The Roughest Draft. This was a cute book. It's about two authors, man and a woman, and they used to partner up and write a lot of books together, and then they had this falling out and then they didn't speak to each other. But they have one more book left in their contract to write together and they team up again to write it, and then there's like sexual tension. It's a fun little, I think I read it on the beach. It was perfect for that. Definitely a cute little romance. The ACOTAR series, I'm probably not gonna reread them. I have reread it twice, I believe. I feel like you guys are gonna hate me for getting rid of these. Probably needs no explanation. Arguably one of the most famous book series on the market right now. I was really into these books in 2021. That's when I read them. They're fantasy novels. Again, I'm sure you know. I was super into them and I reread them a couple times and they're fun, but I don't think I'll read them again. I will say one thing I need to credit these books for is that in 2021, when I read these, it had been a long time since I was into reading. I got very burned out from being an English major and then working with written word. You know, even though the work I did as an editor and writer wasn't creative, it was still just reading so much and working with words, and I got just burned out and I just did not want to be reading anything, whether for fun or not for fun. And I didn't read for a long time, and these books helped reignite my love of reading, and so I will be so grateful to them forever for that. This book I've had since I was a teenager, Irish Fairy and Folktales. I used to be obsessed with Ireland, and I've always been a mythology girl, and as someone who grew up homeschooled and arguably sheltered and weird and in that religious environment, I was a big mythology nerd. Still am, but it was intense. And so I had a collection of, I don't think I have a lot of them anymore. I had a collection of anthologies of different cultures' mythologies, and I hand wrote my own anthology of the mythologies and the pantheons from cultures all over the world. Hand wrote them as a teenager. I was into it. I wish I still had it. It's one of those things that like you get rid of when you're 19 or 20 and you think this is so embarrassing and I'm too cool for that now. And now I'm like, I would give anything to have that piece of my life back because I loved it. Like I was so into it, and it sucks that I got rid of that. So don't get rid of your teenage journals. Don't get rid of those things, even if you're like, this is cringe, this is embarrassing, because one day you're gonna look back and you're gonna wish you had them. But I had this book. I was in love with Ireland. I wanted to live there, and my dream in life was to move to Ireland and to own my own B&B in the countryside and have like a goat and a vegetable garden. And it's interesting because you look at my life now and I have a lot of the same dreams, just not in this country. I got close. I got close, but not the right country. But I love this. So nostalgic, and I still love fairy tales. You know that quote in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe where C.S. Lewis writes, I don't remember it exactly, but something to the effect of, one day you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again. Beautiful. So beautiful. 101 essays that will change the way you think. Toss. The Viking Spirit, Introduction to Norse Mythology and Religion. Love. Norse mythology is, I think, one of my favorites out of all the world mythologies. The Swedish Art of Aging Exuberantly, Life Wisdom from Someone Who Will Probably Die Before You. It's about getting ready for death, which sounds morbid, but it's not morbid. It's about preparing yourself and your life for passing gracefully. Clearing out your unnecessary belongings, literal and emotional, so others don't have to do it for you. I will probably donate. Meet Me Under the Mistletoe, another cute Christmas rom-com-y type book. This one actually is a com, not romantic sad, romantic comedy. Also cute. I think I read this right after I read the other one. If you love cute little Christmas movies, get into cute little Christmas books. Song of Achilles, another huge book, just when book talk started to become a thing. And then we have my C.S. Lewis books. We obviously have the Chronicles of Narnia. Again, I want every edition of these ever written in my library. Hugely significant to me and to my childhood. I reread them over and over and over and over and over again. Oh, they're not in order. Oh wait, they are. Oh, interesting. These ones must be in the order in which, like, in narrative order instead of chronological order when he wrote them, because the first one here is The Magician's Nephew, unless he wrote this one first. I don't know, but The Magician's Nephew is about like the start of Narnia, so in this publication, that one's written as book number 1. That's interesting. I guess I could just find that quote for you now. To Lucy Barfield, my dear Lucy, I wrote this story for you, but when I began it, I had not realized that girls grow quicker than books. As a result, you are already too old for fairy tales, and by the time it is printed and bound, you will be older still. But someday, you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again. You can then take it down from some upper shelf, dust it, and tell me what you think of it. I shall probably be too deaf to hear and too old to understand a word you say, but I shall still be your affectionate godfather, C.S. Lewis. Drop a comment down below if you are now old enough to start reading fairy tales again. Love. I can't even tell you guys how many times I have had to like fight back tears for whatever reason while filming this. There's just something so nostalgic and emotional about going through your books. These are not the editions that I grew up reading. I did not take those ones from my mom. And then we have The Screwtape Letters, The Great Divorce, and Mere Christianity. Now, C.S. Lewis was a Christian. If you are familiar with me and my content, you'll know this already, but if you're new here, I grew up in an extremely high control, toxic religious environment, a Pentecostal church that fits every single parameter of a cult. And I'm not just saying that to be dramatic. I have been in therapy for years because of this. And these are books, these are some of C.S. Lewis's books about religion, and I will not be getting rid of them, even if I don't agree with everything in them at the moment, because when I was a lonely and scared and traumatized teenager, these books did provide comfort for me because I liked the version of Christianity presented in these books more than I liked what I saw modeled around me. And even though I'm in a very different place in my life and I've deconstructed and all of that, I still have a lot of affection for these books. And there is a place in my heart for these. Another shelf. Only other thing on here is a photo book that one of my best friends made me when we went to Guatemala together. There's a vlog of that on my channel. It was a brand trip with the knot, and she made a photo book of our time there. So cute. Okay, one more shelf done. So now we're on like this lower level, and I am gonna try to scrunch down. Shout out to you if you're still here. I know this is a journey. How to Murder Your Employer, hilarious. Same energy and sense of humor as Thursday Murder Club. So funny. I read this on the beach. It was perfect. Love. Definitely gonna read again. It's a good book to take on like a flight. If We Were Villains. Okay, this is another, so dusty. Similar to Donna Tartt's A Secret History, and because I kept that one, I'm gonna toss this one. Been There, Done That, A Rousing History of Sex. Very funny. It is exactly what it says. It is a funny history of sex from a researcher, but I will toss Brain Energy, Revolutionary Breakthrough in Understanding Mental Health and Improving Treatment for Anxiety, Depression, OCD, PTSD, and more. Love this book. Even as someone who has had mental health diagnoses for a long time, this book taught me things that I didn't know about myself, and I didn't know about my brain or my conditions, and I actually have 2 more copies of it here to give to other mentally ill people in my life. More Vogues. Oh, I love these 1-minute mysteries. Have you guys ever done this? They're kind of like riddles or little brain puzzles, and they vary in difficulty. I'm really good at them. Matt does not like to do this with me because, not to toot my own horn, but I'm really good at these. A photo album. More cards. I keep all my cards, but when you keep cards for 10 years, they end up taking up quite a bit of space, and so they're kind of just everywhere. Oh my gosh, these are the photos. We had some film cameras at my 23rd birthday party. These are the photos from it. So funny. Oh, love that. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, another book that I think every man in his 20s has read. That's Matt's. Another Patrick Rothfuss. That's Matt's. James Patterson. This is Matt's, but I know he wants to toss it. Ah, so good. The Viking Book of Poetry of the English-Speaking World, an anthology. I think I used to have multiple of them, but this one must have been my favorite because it's the only one that I've kept. The Norton Anthology of English Literature, Victorian Age edition. I can't get rid of this. Transforming the Living Legacy of Trauma. This is a workbook that my therapist recommended to me. An old journal, little book of Huga, another one. No Bad Parts, Healing Trauma and Restoring Wholeness in the Internal Family Systems Model. Highly recommend this book if you have relational trauma. I loved it. Oh my God. I bought this book from a bookstore in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'll have to text my friend, McKay Books, that's the name. The Joys of Oral Love. It is an old book on sexuality. I think it was written in the 70s. I saw it and it was so funny. There are these old illustrations, and I think it was written in the 70s, which was, you know, obviously a time of like women's sexual liberation, and that's, I think, what this book was born out of. I have browsed through it. It's not one that I'm gonna sit down and read. It is a hymn of praise to the many joyous possibilities of human sexual communication. Not a ton of explanation for why I have this one, but I'm not getting rid of it. Psychology of Money. I'm gonna toss that. Good and Mad. This was a gift from my linguistics advisor when I graduated college. It's about gender and sexuality, the revolutionary power of women's anger. And she wrote me a very touching card when I graduated, and yeah. I'm trying to go faster now. Still want to talk about the books that are like important to me, but I am trying to go a little faster now. So here are 2 more copies of Brain Energy because I meant to be giving these as gifts to people. Cottage Witchery, Natural Magic for Hearth and Home, Heal Yourself with Traditional Chinese Medicine, Kitchen Witchery for Everyday Magic, and the Tarot and Astrology Handbooks, The Science of Strength Training. This was actually a gift from my grandmother for my 25th birthday. Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. I bought this book because Victoria Brown, who is a lovely human inside and out, she was telling me about it, and so I got this. We All Want Impossible Things. I've not read this book. I'll keep it. Murtaugh, also haven't read this one. Christopher Polini, who wrote the Aragon series, he wrote Murtaugh, and it is about the character of Murtaugh. I haven't read it yet, and my older sister, who was also a major Aragon girly when we were growing up, every time I see her, she's like, have you read Murtaugh yet? It's amazing. And she, like, again, gets very emotional, like me, when thinking about those books that just meant everything, like the books that just kind of saved you as a kid. And every time I see her, she's like, have you read it yet? It's so good. And I haven't. Oh my God, Clive Cussler's Sahara. Have you guys seen the movie with Matthew McConaughey? Because the book is better. Clive Cussler was a series that my brothers, or sorry, Dirk Pitt, what is the series called? Clive Cussler wrote a series of action-adventure novels starring Dirk Pitt, the character. And one of them, Sahara, was made into a movie with Matthew McConaughey and Penelope Cruz. This was a book series that my brothers loved, but I did like Sahara, and for whatever reason, no one else wanted this copy from my parents' book collection, and so I took it. No, I didn't even know I still had this. Oh my God, Artemis Fowl. Any other Artemis Fowl girls? This was another favorite childhood series. I need all of them. There's so many books in this series, I need all of them. It's about this very young, mega rich young man who discovers the fairy world, but like also the fairy world is super science techy. He meets this elf named Holly, a fairy, Captain Holly Short, who's a police officer in the fairy world, and there's such a long series of them. It's better than it sounds. I don't know how to it's cool. Love, love, love. I need all of them. Oh my God. I remember I checked out this book, the first in the series, from the local library, and I read it in the bathtub in one sitting, and I was so into it as a kid that I sat in the bathtub until the water turned ice cold because I couldn't put it down, and then I read all of the books. Attached. This is a book about attachment styles, like anxious, secure, avoidant attachment styles. I read it last year, and it was a recommendation from my therapist, and I really liked it. Don't think I need to read it again. The Everything Travel Guide to Ireland. This is another book. My mom actually gave this to me for Christmas because I was obsessed with Ireland as a kid, back when I thought I was gonna move there and have a B&B. Peter Pan, J.M. Barrie, one of my favorite books growing up. I need another edition of that. Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil. When I was a pretentious and tortured literature student, I read this on the beach one year. Ew, keeping it. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. This was a good one. I read this last summer. It was a fun summer read. It's like this group of middle-aged ladies has a book club, and then a vampire moves to town, and they realize through reading books in their book club that the guy is a vampire, and then they have to slay him. It's actually like kind of chilling in some parts. It's not funny. It's like actually, it was like disturbing in some parts. I liked it, would recommend. It's a fun read, not gonna read it again. Woman Captain Rebel, The Extraordinary True Story of a Daring Icelandic Sea Captain. I recommended this one to my mom. I loved it. It is a historical, it's not fiction, it's about a real person, but it's not written like a biography. It's written like a novel, but it narrates this person's life. I like it, gonna keep it. This was my 18th birthday present from my parents. That and a bathroom scale. This was the summer I went off to college, off for my freshman year, and for my 18th birthday, my parents gave me this copy of the NIV Holy Bible Journal Edition, and they gave me a bathroom scale to take with me to college. I feel like I'm trauma bonded. I don't think I can get rid of it. Ew, I want to cry. By the way, if you relate to any of whatever that was, I have an entire episode on my podcast, which is called Prologues, where I spoke to a trauma-informed therapist about religious trauma, and it was a really good episode if you want to listen to it. This was my book talk era, you guys. 2021 was my summer of book talk. This is the Kingdom of Flesh and Fire series. Fantasy, sexy books about vampires. I think there's another one that I never read. I'm gonna toss. Loved them though. Come As You Are, The Surprising New Science That Will Transform Your Sex Life. This is a great book if you've ever struggled with owning and feeling confident in your sexuality. I like that one. Period Repair Manual, Natural Treatment for Better Hormones and Better Periods. Toss. Wow, okay, so we only have one shelf left, and it's a good one. This is my collection of paperback historical erotic novels. Let's let that sink in for a moment. Do you see how many I have? I make no apologies for myself. Reading is for everybody. Some books are meant to transform your world and your life and mean everything to you, and they're meant to be deep and thought-provoking and wonderful, and some books are meant to entertain, and both are fine. I am gonna get rid of some of them though. One I'm gonna get rid of, I should have known from the title, this was awful. Wicked Cowboy Wolf. It's about like cowboy werewolves. So awful. I have so many Lindsay Sands novels. She has a vampire series, The Immortal Hunter. Oh wait, why is that going to the donate pile? That's mine. Love is Blind, The Devil of the Highlands. And that just about wraps it up. I need to put all of these back on the shelf, and I'm gonna do so. I'll do a montage. You don't have to stick around for that if you don't want to. But that was my entire book. That's oh wait, no it's not. There's more over here. Oops, I have a stack of books that I haven't read yet. Sorry, this is my TBR. Most of these I have bought in airports because I've been bored on flights, and then I haven't ended up reading them. But these are the ones I have currently. Look at all of the books on the floor right now and on the couch. This is what we are dealing with. I'm gonna put everything back on the shelves and reorganize them, and then take these books to little free libraries to donate. Now comes the fun part, putting everything back. While I'm still speaking in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope it wasn't 50 hours long.